You ever notice how nobody talks about Gen X? It's always boomers ruined everything, or millennials are struggling, or Gen Z is changing the world. And Gen X? Silence. If you were born between the late 60s and early 80s, you grew up in the shadow of the loudest generations in history. Too young to be a boomer, too old to be a millennial. And that invisible feeling? It didn't start on the internet. It started in childhood. You were the latchkey kids. You came home to empty houses, you made your own snacks, you figured things out alone. No tracking apps, no constant supervision, no participation trophies, just freedom and responsibility. And here's the part nobody says out loud. That independence rewired your brain. While other generations were raised with constant feedback, you learned to rely on yourself. While others were told they were special, you learned to prove your value quietly. While others broadcast everything, you mastered moving in silence. You became adaptable. Think about it. You saw the world before the internet, then survived the explosion of it. You wrote letters, then learned email. You used cassette tapes, then Spotify. You didn't grow up digital. You evolved digital. That's not small. That's rare. But here's the downside. When you're self-sufficient, people assume you don't need help. When you don't complain, people assume you're fine. When you're not loud, people assume you don't matter. So you became the generation that just handled it. Handled layoffs, handled parenting, handled aging parents, handled economic crashes, quietly. And because you don't scream for attention, the world doesn't hand it to you. But here's the twist. In a world addicted to noise, silence is power. While everyone else is chasing validation online, Gen X doesn't need applause to move. You don't crumble when trends change. You don't panic when platforms shift. You've already adapted to bigger changes than most people can imagine, and that's your superpower. You are the bridge generation. You understand analog depth and digital speed. You value privacy in an oversharing world. You know how to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it with notifications. That's not invisibility, that's resilience. And here's what's happening right now. As the world gets louder, more chaotic, more performative, people are starting to crave exactly what Gen X embodies: stability, calm, real-world competence. The world may not talk about you every day, but when things fall apart, you are the ones everyone quietly turns to. So maybe you were never invisible. Maybe you were just too solid to need the spotlight. And in an era obsessed with being seen, being unshakable is the real flex.